Good morning. It is 8:46 a.m. on Saturday, October 17th, 2020. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is Rocket's new favorite toy at the moment. Used to have squeakers in it, not anymore. How did that happen? Ah. Hey Rocket, can you well, never mind. Um he's a very good boy. Um got to get some good sleep last night. Managed to go to bed early-ish and then sleep in also, so that's good. Um, it's also been a lot of rain yesterday and today, which is not as good for giving Rocket a long walk, but we needed it. It's been kind of dry. It's good. I like the rain when I don't have to go out in it as much. Um, yeah. Last night I watched Night of the Living Dead, and I had seen it before, but it's spooky season, and there's it's going to be the next. It's funny because for watching 100 movies, in the most recent episode, Mike and I did Gladiator and Groundhog Day. But then we decided that our next episode is going to be horror movies, and in particular, he chose for us to watch Halloween, and I chose for us to watch Night of the Living Dead. And then by sheer coincidence, the other podcast, aka the professional podcast called Unspooled, that did the same thing that Mike and I were doing, meaning watching the AFI list, announced that they're also doing Night of the Living Dead for their next movie, which I did not know when I suggested it, and it's kind of just a funny coincidence. Um, but in any case, I watched it, and that movie is fascinating. For one, anyone interested in horror or zombies should definitely see it because it's really like what started it all. Like the concept of a zombie, first of all, didn't come from what we think of as zombies today. Like there's the whole concept of the voodoo zombie. And in particular, in Night of the Living Dead, they're not even called zombies, they call them ghouls or creatures. But, certainly when we think of zombies today, the origin, the first nails, the first presentation to really say, nope, that's it, is Night of the Living Dead. And it's fascinating to watch it now because it was made in 1968. It's black and white and has the TV aspect ratio, meaning on a high def TV it'll look almost like square because it's technically like 4:3. And there are things about it that feel like really old fashioned. For one, the score is very overwrought and feels like an old, like Universal horror movie. It's or maybe actually, what it kept making me think of actually is some of the music from the Star Trek original series, but it's just very in your face and feels kind of old fashioned. And then there are also elements of the movie that feel a little awkward, like although the movie is very good in general, there are certainly bits where the editing feels a little clumsy and that sort of thing. But on the other hand, the flip side, there are things about it that feel like surprisingly modern given its time, the time in which it was made. Certainly, some of the gore effects are, you know, uh, you, you watch this movie, you don't expect them to be as intense as they are. And of course, just the very idea that it originated a horror trope that has been pretty lasting, right? And it just does a lot of really interesting things. Like it's very scary, and I mean, it's tame for people who watch a lot of horror, but the point is that it's still effective, I think. But one of the other things that's always interesting to remind myself about it is that, like the hero is a black man in 1968. and the movie does not like make a big point about it, but I can't imagine that it escaped the notice of anyone watching it at the time. And like there's even a scene too where the first character we're introduced to is Barbara, um, who is a woman that's going to visit a cemetery with her brother, and they're the ones that are attacked first, and then we follow her. So we follow her to this house where she there meets Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, who's really the hero of the story for sure. And like we watch him, like, so she very reasonably is incredibly traumatized by the fact that she's been attacked by what we know now as a zombie, that her brother is presumably dead. She doesn't know. She ran away. She is traumatized and not handling it very well. And so she spends most of the movie kind of in and out of a daze. And there are plenty of times where she is being very unreasonable. Like Ben's going around trying to board up the house, and then all of a sudden, Barbara kind of comes to her senses a little bit and says, "Wait, my brother's still out there. We have to go get him." And Ben's like, "No, no, 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 no. That's not going to happen." Um, and there's a point where she's she's panicking and she's making a lot of noise. And at a certain point, he's trying to just restrain her from tearing down the barricades that he's just built. She slaps him and he slaps her back. And so again, like that's another thing where I mean, at the in 1968, I think there's a lot of people for whom that would have been a big deal. And in fact, like it's just, but at the same time, like he is portrayed throughout the film as the prepared one, the resourceful one, the cool-headed one, the one that is able to manage this situation better than anyone else around. And that's not to say that he is like perfect or some kind of Terminator machine, because like there's another time where he's talking about his first encounter with these things. He gets this faraway haunted look. There's a bit where he has gone outside on this mission that went disastrously for reasons that were not his fault. And then, one of the other guys that's, the jerk, there's always one in a zombie movie, um, hesitates to let him back in. And he ends up having to break his own way back in and then reaffix the barricades. And then he proceeds to beat the crap out of this guy. And then, there's back and forth with that guy throughout. And he doesn't, like, he is not this perfect saint of patience and everything, but he's the hero, and he is doing all of the things that we are meant to feel like. If I was the hero in this story, this is what I would be doing. And spoilers now for Night of the Living Dead if you haven't seen it. The ending of this movie is kind of amazing in the sense that, like, it's sad. It's a horror ending, but just the nuance of it is really interesting, because one of the little side through lines that we've had throughout the movie is seeing some of the characters on the TV that are talking about their own method, like the people who are, like with the National Guard or the Sheriff's Service. They're well armed. They have a group of them together, and they're kind of proceeding through certain areas trying to kill all of the ghouls, and they're pretty competent at it. But so by the time we get to the end of the movie, Ben is the only survivor left of everyone who had been there at that house. And it's daylight now, and he hears things start to quiet down, and he starts to come out. And then when he looks out the window, he sees some people walking in the field towards him and assumes that they might be zombies. So he aims his rifle, but we know that those people are actually these sheriff's deputies that are armed, who are kind of roaming the countryside trying to kill the zombies. And one of them shoots Ben through the window, killing him. And so he, it's a sad horror ending in the sense that our hero is killed, but there's also just this little bit of an element of, like, he was holding the rifle. Did this guy really think he was a zombie? Is there something else there? We don't know. We'll never know. But, now that he's dead, doesn't matter. And so the idea ultimately that, the zombies couldn't kill him, but people could. That sort of thing is so much a part of zombie lore. So, in any case, Night of the Living Dead. Good, actually. And I'll leave it there for now. Tomorrow, of course, is Sunday, which I'll be rewatching, Legend of Korra. I'll be talking about that episode. We're in season 3 right now, which is really good. And tonight on Twitch, we'll be streaming more Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden, which is a really fun adventure that we're having a good time with so far. So, join us for that. Join me back here tomorrow, and I'll talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.